Warning, the following may cause drowsiness. Please do not operate an automobile or heavy machinery while watching this program.
Hi, I'm Jimmy.
I'm Paul.
Welcome to Visually Challenged. We have a pretty interesting show lined up for you this time.
Yeah, Jim, we got a lot of historical theater stuff this show, but we feel that theater history is a big part of film history, so we think it's pretty important. Hope you enjoy it.
Jimmy, you're fired. Get out.
What a loser!
Lose some weight.
What a loser!
Forget it. She's way out of your league.
You're fired!
You make me sick. You suck. Ugly. Ugly.
Lose some weight.
Get out! You are disgusting.
Fat.
All the kids in the neighborhood used to go. You get about 10 kids together and phew, you went down to the show, you know. It wasn't the idea like now, you know, just one or two of them would go, or parents would drop the kids off at the show sometimes, you know. Then it was just all of us went to the show. We walked down there. We had walked, well, like from my house, we walked about a mile, you know, and there was a show.
It used to be easy to tell the good guys from the bad guys, but lately the line is getting blurred. We have an obligation to fight against hate and intolerance. The Constitution gives us the right, even when we're wrong, to speak our minds and give our opinions. But it doesn't give us the right to become a mob and attack people. Violence is wrong. A good idea is more powerful than a fist or a boot. Stop the hate. you told kids today that they used to show movies outside, they wouldn't believe you. And if you said that while sitting in your car outside, you got to see 2 movies instead of 1, they'd think you were crazy. Well, it's too bad that because the number of drive-in theaters has drastically decreased, most kids have never even been to one. But it's not too late. There are still few drive-ins left. But if we don't support them, they'll die out too. Next time you see a movie, why not go to the drive-in? Help keep a part of history alive.
If you're watching television and you see something you don't like, something you think your kids shouldn't see, or something that offends the heck out of you, before you call the TV station, write a letter to your congressman, or boycott the show's advertisers, remember that right now there's probably someone out there watching the stuff that you like and thinking the same thing. It's a big country full of different ideas. Why not just change the channel?
Censorship sucks. Keep an open mind. Remember, America is a free country. When you go to the movies, if the projector breaks, you end up sitting in the dark. But Pete Trudgeon is going to make sure that doesn't happen.
What is your actual title and discuss the kind of job that you do?
Actual title is booth manager or booth management. Covers everything from running the films themselves to projector maintenance, building, breaking down of prints, and a little paperwork here and there.
So how'd you get started in all this?
Just started out as being your usher concessionist type, and then jumping from theater to theater, being a jack of all trades, and then basically becoming a manager, leaving that job and quite honestly knowing the right person at the right time who needed somebody to, who knew actually only how to thread projectors, which was good because that's all I knew how to do, and got set up here. Aside from actually threading the movies, there's maintenance on all levels. There's stuff to do before you actually thread. You check your oil, you clean your sprockets, you clean the lenses, you check your exciter or sound ball, make sure that looks good. And then there's monthly maintenance, everything from simple cleaning of things to maybe if something needs to be repaired. These projectors have to have oil when they're running. Some projectors take 2 kinds. There's sound head, and then there's projector oil, which they all have, and they all have to have oil going through them. These are machines that are running at long hours and for long periods of time, and if there's not enough oil, they're almost like an automotive engine. If you don't have oil in your car, you know what's going to happen. It's going to heat up. Eventually, it's going to lock on you, and your car's not going to work anymore. The bulbs have to be maintained. The projector bulbs have to be maintained, basically because of their expense. And if a bulb isn't maintained and breaks on you in the middle of the show, it's a good 40 minutes till you can get the thing on screen. At first, you have to you have to wait at least 10 minutes for a bulb to cool down, take the old bulb out, put the new one in, and sometimes you have to realign the bulb itself so you can have an even spread of light. So it can be a long process if you're not on your toes. And you're talking about, we use 3 types of bulbs. There's 16 watt, 2,000 watt, and 3,000 watt. And putting out a lot of power. And if they're not maintained properly, well, you know, what's going to happen?
You ever take one and just throw it just to see the explode or hear the explosion? Or have you ever heard one drop?
Yeah, I've heard one drop before. Yeah, it's rather loud. But that's one of the reasons that there's that cool down period. They get very hot, and there is actually always a possibility that if they could explode on you, which face full of glass is not really a pleasant thought.
How did you learn projection?
Well, when I was working as a manager for the Oakland Mall, we had a union man, but he was only there basically during the weekend, so the managers had to basically handle the running of the projectors. So my GM at the time just taught me how to thread, and by repetition, just learned to do it faster and faster. And basically all projectors, they have minor variations, but more or less, it's the same basic thing. I've got it down till I can do it in about 90 seconds. So.
You ever watch some of those movies that you throw up?
When I have the occasional 5-10 minutes in between starting one projector or another, I'll look in and watch 5 or 10 minutes here. To be honest, though, that's the ironic thing is I'm working in a movie theater, and to be honest, most of the movies aren't worth watching more than 5 or 10 minutes of. So, you know, I think basically there's an air of mystery of the booth, kind of, because people are just used to sitting down and watching the movie. So when a lot of people come up here, they're kind of surprised about what it looks like, how big the prints actually are, even to how they're built, which is even rather simple, just to the size of the projectors and everything. Because a lot of people really don't get to come up and see this place. It's kind of, it's known it's there, but it's kind of in the back of their heads.
How are the prints built?
Rather simple. You get it, depending on the film, it can go from anywhere to 5 to as many as 10 reels. Sometimes you have to rewind the reels. It depends, but you take the smaller reels and you basically just rewind them onto a bigger reel, and you strap them onto what's called a rewind table, and attach them by the leader to the platter, and you've got a switch that controls. Basically, it's just a flip of the switch and a turn of a dial, and the platter takes up the film, and you just add piece to piece, and basically taking it apart is pretty much the same process in reverse. I always remember the first movie I ever built was The Doors. It was a big movie, it was 8 reels, and we watched it that night after hours. But to be honest, if I build a movie and watch it afterwards, I'm very uncomfortable because I'm always waiting for a mistake to show up, like a bad splice or something like that. So it's kind of hard to enjoy a film when you're watching for your own possible screw-up. I notice picture quality a lot better, and when I see a defect, I know what causes it. To be honest, if I go to a theater, I usually wait till the movie's been out a few weeks, because that after-hours viewing, when it's only you and maybe a few other employees, it's rather comfortable. Now, if I go to a packed theater, I'm very distracted because people have a tendency to talk continuously before, during, and after, and it doesn't always relate to what's going on the screen, and it gets very distracting.
Any like horror stories, like film breaking or anything like that? I'm pretty sure the film breaks a lot.
Well, occasionally. It's usually, if film breaks, is probably because there's a lot of, the splice has gotten dirty and it'll just snap. No, actually, the last disaster we had didn't happen to me personally. It happened to another guy, but we had a lab defect in one of our prints, and he cut it out and then had to reassemble the film, and it kind of wrapped around itself and was dragged off of one of our platters. And I've had to deal with that, and it's a really big mess, and it takes forever to get it straightened out. If you've ever seen movie film in a big tangled ball, it is not pretty. It is not fun to have to straighten out. It can take a long time. Usually if some smart alecky kid decides to pull the fire alarm, which incidentally usually also shuts off all the projectors, and we've had our city blackouts. I don't know, I can't say there's been anything really weird. There's been some really, really bad messes made, but I can't say there's anything really weird that's happened. Aside from free films, I kind of like it because although I've worked with people and I've done customer service, this job is really better suited for my personality. I'm left here alone. I don't have anybody looking over my shoulder. Basically left to my own devices, so it's probably the privacy, yeah. But like I said, I'm not really a people person, so this is perfect for my personality.
It's great. I can't think of doing anything else.
What happened?
I don't know. Yeah, it has sound on it. I don't know why it's not working.
When you go to the movies, you don't usually concern yourself with where you're watching the movie, just which movie you're watching. Well, it used to be different. When movies first began, which theater you went to was just as important as what movie you saw. Unfortunately, those days are gone, but a few of those old theaters are still around. Next time you go to the movies, why not give a classic theater a try? At the rate we're going, we may lose them forever. Help keep a part of history alive.
Well, this is a pretty big order. You having a party over there? What?
At work, and I'm pushed around by your aunt, and I'm not getting pushed around by my own baby! Cut.
She said we did a good job.
Sometimes we'll show you stuff that's so cool that your eyes will bleed. And other times, not so cool stuff, and they'll just tingle.
Cable television is an exciting industry. And really, when we talk about cable television, that's really a little bit of a misnomer, because what we're becoming really is a communications company. We're looking to provide all the services that anyone wants to consume in the area of communications, whether that's cable television, whether that's telephone, whether that's data, online services. Our goal is to be able to provide all those through one avenue, and that avenue being TCI.
The fate of a theater is usually determined by economics. Some are just boarded up, like the National. Some are torn down, like what happened to the Grand Riviera. In 1925, the Grand Riviera Theater opened in Detroit with a seating capacity of 2,766. It was big, especially considering its location. It was built on the corner of Riviera and Grand River on Detroit's west side, far from the downtown theater district, where the State Theater would be open 3 months later and 3 years before the Fox would open its doors. Aside from its size and appearance, there are 2 things that make the Grand Riviera significant. One is the fact that it was what is known as an atmospheric theater. As the name implies, an atmospheric recreates the image or atmosphere of some distant and exotic arena. Its walls covered with artifacts resembling those of an ancient palace or castle, and its ceiling open to an artificial night sky. Through the use of paint and projection equipment, you can enjoy a movie theater under the stars without the fear of rain. This fact is significant because of the Grand Riviera's second outstanding feature, its designer, famous theater architect, John Eberson. The Grand Riviera was the only Detroit area example of Eberson's work. Initially, it was so successful that Eberson designed a smaller atmospheric theater down the street called the Riviera Annex in 1927. But it was torn down for parking in 1949. In fact, there were only 3 Eberson theaters built in all of Michigan, the 2 Rivieras and the other being the State Theater in Kalamazoo. Eberson was known as the father of the atmospheric. To explain his concept, he said, "We visualize a dream, a magnificent amphitheater, an Italian garden, a Persian court, a Spanish patio, or a mystic Egyptian temple yard, all canopied by the soft moonlit sky." Aside from the atmospheric illusion, Eberson made sure that the side walls of his theaters never matched. Though some of the same elements existed in different Eberson-designed theaters, they were never in the same place or settings. Eberson even built his own workshop he called the Michelangelo Studios in order to supply these plaster masterpieces for his theaters, while others bought theirs off the shelf. For the Grand Riviera, Eberson chose an Italian-style garden setting with a mixture of small temples and classical statuary. The theater opened with the film Desert Flower on August 24, 1925, and remained a movie venue for 32 years until it switched to stage productions on March 25, 1957. During its run as a legitimate theater, the Grand Riviera hosted a number of major touring shows. But when the remodeled Fisher Theater opened in 1961, the Grand Riviera returned to film exhibition. By 1969, the theater started hosting rock concerts, attracting big-name bands like The Who. And in 1974, a major renovation was planned, but it never happened. As the neighborhood has deteriorated, so has the Riviera. Over the years, ownership has even been in question. It seems that most recently, a local restaurant owner had been paying taxes on the building, maybe in hopes of saving or renovating it. But when he passed away recently, it seems his family decided to salvage anything of value from the theater and tear it down. By now, it's probably just another empty field in Detroit, a victim of the deterioration of the city, and another tragic loss of a part of film history.
When dealing with classic theaters, preservation is usually a problem because basically they're just big old buildings. Recently I spoke with Catherine Clarkson, head of Preservation Wayne, while she was speaking in Oakland County for their Brown Bag Lecture Series. She told me about the history of the United Artists Theater and a little bit about its current situation.
United Artists theater chain took an interesting tack toward guaranteeing the product would have a place to be shown. The theater system was able to create these incredibly elegant theaters by a monopoly sort of system. The theater studios not only made the pictures, but they also owned the theaters that the pictures were shown in. Most of these theaters were also called the Michigan Lowe's Theater or the Paramount Capitol. You knew what studio produced the movies that it carried. United Artists took it a little bit further. The major stars like Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford and Charlie Chaplin, and also the producer D.W. Griffith starred in and distributed their own pictures so that they would cut out the middleman. They figured, why should they let the studios get the money for all the work that they put into their movies? And they built some of the most elegant movie theaters. It was also a site of a kind of famous thing. Gone with the Wind was given its premiere here at the United Artists, but Matilda Dodge Wilson was so furious that her theater didn't get this movie that she badgered the studio to the point where they allowed her to have a dual premiere. It was held both at the Wilson Theater and at the United Artists. And if you don't recognize the name Wilson Theater, it's now known as the Music Hall. But Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara spent about a year on the screen of United Artists, and it was such wonderful sound quality that the Detroit Symphony Orchestra recorded 4 albums there in the 1960s and 70s. David Grossman, a young man who, when he bought the theater, was in his late 20s, and he bought the building hoping to restore the theater, open it up for a number of different venues to show movies, to have concerts, whatever. would bring in the crowds, whatever the company or whatever the city wants. And to finance the restoration, he opened the Vault, a bar that used the former bank vault as part of its attraction. And the Vault is now called the Currency Exchange. And it's still working. It's still a bar, a nightclub, whatever you want to call it, has good music in it. But like all theater projects, it's more expensive than anybody thought it was going to be. Grossman has run into more problems than he thought he was going to run into. One of the problems being the brick facade on the southwest side of the building started to fall off. And because it was a safety hazard, he was forced to take all of the bricks off, which has left the soft inner brick exposed to the weather, and it needs to be repaired quickly before it crumbles and the whole structure starts to go. And that's much more expensive than he thought he was going to have to come up with. The United Artist is a theater at risk at the moment. This is the interior that they want to tear down to make a sightline for the Tiger Stadium. They don't want to do anything with the space. They just want to make a sightline. The current People Mover stop is located across the street, basically from the United Artist, and they want them to be able to look straight ahead and see the Tiger Stadium instead of using the Tuller site as their sightline. There are many alternatives, and we're very hopeful that the city and the Tiger organization will be open and willing to listen to alternatives. They already are listening to us. They just want to make sure that they get to spend their money in the most effective way possible.
You know, it's hard to make it because nobody's just going to hand it to you and say, here.
Our goal is to show you things that are visually oriented.
You know, things like film, video, photography.
Some are wilder. This was pretty average.
It drew a lot of dregs to society, and it also drew me. It's not saying much, but it's not saying little either, is it?
If you have any comments or questions, or if you have any cool story ideas, let us know. Write to us at our offices in our tree fort high above TCI Cablevision, 4500 Delamere Boulevard, Royal Oak, Michigan, 48073. Attention, Paul Muchinski.
Well, that's it for the show.
Remember, we're still looking for story ideas, so any ideas you have, let us know. Also, any old theaters you've seen across the state, you're on vacation, you see something, let us know. We're really interested.
Thank you again, and join us again on Visually Challenged.
Dry off my hands. This is just for the sound again, real quick. All right. Because the water's there too, so, and you're coming in pretty, you know, moving. Are you ready? You ready? You do this? Ready? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Oh my God, give me my baby, please. Thank you.
Honey, he looks all right.
Get away from him.
Hand up.
Hey, thanks, man.
Oh, I don't know how I can repay you, bro. Get away from him is when you're gonna reach your hand up. You're gonna be looking at her. You butt your hand up in pretty much in his face, not like right there, but just get it out there so he knows. Okay? Yeah. You all right? Yeah. All right. Well, you can get back in. Careful on the splashing.